Hello, in this video I am going to show you how to add a floating action button. So a floating action button is basically a button that just sort of seems like it's on top of everything else. It might not necessarily be linked or with a certain particular layout mechanism on that page, and hence why it's called a floating action button. It is a circular button, hovers over all the content. It usually promotes a sort of primary application in the featuring the application, and that button could always be there or be there on a lot of different pages as the content is changing. So to add it, there's a couple of different ways. So there's this way. You do floating action button. Inside here we need an event for on pressed, and I'm gonna say, yeah, we'll just do like so, and we can do a print. So we can say button pressed. Okay, so button pressed, and other properties that we can add. But let's see what happens when we just save this. So it's hot reloaded. We get this button in the center. That's because this is in the center of the body. You can place it wherever you want using rows, columns, and padding, etc. If I click it, we get this. So we have a sort of like a highlight effect. Didn't trigger it then because I moved my mouse, my finger off it. It technically was simulating my finger. Here, and we can add a child. The benefit of adding a child is, well, it won't be empty. And what we can do is we can either add some text, or better yet, if we add an icon, do icons dot, and let's say if we do the add button, we now got an add symbol in there. Okay, that's looking pretty cool. There are other stuff in terms of the elevation, the highlight elevation. I recommend that you experiment with that. The color thing as well, because if you don't specify the color, it'll be whatever color that you've got as the primary swatch, but you can override it, so bear that in mind. What I want to do now is show you the other way of creating a floating action button. This is probably the more common way outside of your body, still within the scaffold, is to do floating action button, and in here we just need to say floating action button, and now we are going to say in here we can essentially, let's say if I copy all of this, so essentially doing the same. I'm going to say button to pressed. This just anchors it at the bottom. That's the general way that you will have seen it. Unlike this, no reason why you can't do that, but this is the more common way of doing it. So I'm going to comment this out. I'll leave it in the source code that will be available on GitHub in case anyone is interested. You can go a step further and do floating action button location, floating action button location. Actually, no, we would do that in here. Sorry, we could modify the location itself, and because at the moment it's always in the bottom right, but we can change it so it is basically anywhere that we want it to be. But I want you to have a go at that as an extra task. I've gone in more depth about all of that stuff in the scaffold video, but I wanted to specifically show you how to do it on its own, manually, and the other way of doing it. So I recommend you watch the scaffold video and then the floating action button video as well. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message, and as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.